Welcome to Get a Mix. I've got my Pioneer t-shirt on, so you know what time it is.
He loves it.
That's right, we're taking a look at the DDJ-REV1. Pioneer DJ have created the world's first battle-style entry-level controller. So let's first take a look at the layout and the differences between this and what we might expect to normally see on an entry-level controller. The first thing jumping out at me, pitch faders. They're above the platter rather than to the right or left. Normally go on the left. They're above the platter rather than to the left. Now, when we talk about battle studies, you might not know what we're referencing here, but when we do scratch style DMC mixing, the DJs will often turn their turntable at 90 degrees so that the pitch fader and the tone arm, more importantly, is completely out of their way. This means that when we're scratching, we're not interfering with the tone file, we're not accidentally knobbing, we're not accidentally knobbing. We're not accidentally knocking the... We're not accidentally knocking our hands into a tone arm, which is causing the needle to move and just disrupting how we DJ. Apart from the pitch faders being in a slightly different position, there's also a number of other differences in terms of layout. So we've got our EQs, free band EQ down the middle, that's pretty standard, but we've got our trims to the side of our highs rather than above, fair enough, and filters, again, in a slightly different position. Normally they'd be below your EQ knob, but again, they're to the left and to the right. If we come down here, we can see that we've got a slightly different style of play and cue button. On a turntable, you don't really have a cue button. Now, we have been given a small little cue button for those of us that need to use it, but for the most part, it's shrunken, it's out of the way, it's no longer an intrusive part of that bit. Obviously, faders, pretty standard position. Very standard position. Our loops, often found off to the left of a platter. Again, these are above our platter, just means that they're not in the way, we're not accidentally touching accidental loops, and they're also very close to our pitch fader, so we can make adjustments and quickly jump into loops really easy. We've got our master on the side here, so, you know, not super uncommon. Often we'd have them in the middle, but we've got it to the right over here, and we've got our headphone level to the left over here. Apart from the layout, in terms of differences, there are a number of new features and differences between this and previous entry-level controllers. The next thing that screams at me is the size of the splatters. The size of the platters. These are bigger than the previous Serato entry-level controller, which was the SB3. They're more in line of what you might remember from the DDJ-SR2. Slightly bigger, giving us a bigger control surface, and just making them a little bit more playable and a little bit more friendly for the scratch, or at least the developing scratch DJ. The next thing is the effects levers. In true battle mixer style, we've got a lock on feature and a hold off feature. So we can really put our effects in, hold them, we can have them temporarily, bring them down, release them, and we can do that on both sides. It's interesting and worth noting that you can control up to 3 effects at the same time with your battle lever. Simply enable all 3 effects by clicking all 3, and we can hold or lock. Performance feature-wise, there's also a number of differences. You might notice that we've got a tracking feature and a scratch bank feature. Now, what tracking does is introduce some cuts, automatic cuts for you, that allow you to develop your scratch skills. And as you release the platter, every time you let go of that platter, it's going to bring the track back to that hot cue, the nearest hot cue that you were just using. So to give you an example, we might have a track playing on one side, we've got a scratch sample on the other side, and when I let go, if I'm pressing play, let's press play first. If I let go, the sample's going to play, but then every time I touch the platter again, it's going to bring it back to that hot cue in that position on that track. So let's give it a go. So as you can tell from that, I'm no scratch expert, but it allowed me to introduce some free-flowing cuts, and also for me to not have to bring that track back, catch it, and bring it back to the exact position every time. Every time I released my hand off the platter, we went back to that hot cue and released it, and it played the sample again. You could either use to build and develop your skills, learn, or to just shine out the box, jump in. I'm a scratch expert, mate.
That's amazing.
Helps you improve, helps you introduce you into that scratching world. So if you've been watching the big dogs and you think that could be you, and you want to go down that route of battle DJ, then this is probably the first stop on your journey. Another feature that's worth talking about is the scratch bank. So when we hold shift and click the sampler button, we get access to Serato DJ Lite's 4 scratch banks, which are scratch samples that we've preloaded into Serato. Now you can switch and change those, so you do get 4 scratch samples just direct with the download of Serato Lite. And it's also worth noting that if you upgrade to Serato DJ Pro, you get access to the other 4 scratch banks as well. Next, let's take a look at the effects levers in action. So we'll get our track playing once again, we'll enable an effect, and we'll bring it in, and we'll dial it in with that level and depth knob. So first up, reverb. Bit of flange. Everyone loves a flange, loves a flange, ooh flange. It's also worth noting that you can change the beat divisions of your effects by holding shift and clicking either 2 or 3. And you can hold shift and click 1 to cycle through and change the effects in Effects Bank 1. Now the Rev1 is also a 4-deck system. Now I know what you might be saying, where's the 4 decks? It's 2 physical decks, but we can press 3 and we can press 4 to switch the layers of those decks and start playing other tracks. Now, of course, that does mean that you've not got as much control in the mixer section, but it's really easy to flick through, adjust where you are, and bring that next track in. To give you 4 decks mix capabilities on an entry-level controller, it's pretty big. Now the entire device is bus powered, and that means it doesn't use a separate power supply, it's powered directly from the laptop itself. And one last really important feature that is, as far as I'm aware, a first for an entry-level controller. There's a number of firsts on this unit, whether it's the fact that it's in battle style, whether it's the addition of scratch banks and tracking, but the third, and what I think is a really important aspect and first for this controller, is the fact that the master out takes the mic input, so that you're able to record both your DJ mix and any MCing or introductions or discussions or talk, whatever it might be that you're doing over the microphone is going to record to wherever you're recording your mix. Now it's worth noting again that you can only record a mix inside a Serato Pro and not Serato Lite, but if you are using Serato Lite, there are plenty of ways of routing the audio internally in your computer to some kind of software to record that. And in this example, you're also going to have that mic. So if you do radio shows, if you do live streams, and you found that actually your entry-level controller, whatever it might be, doesn't record the mic, this solves that problem. Now for me, this entry-level controller ticks a number of boxes. It's a fantastic little unit at a fantastic price. Be sure to tell us what you think of this new battle style layout for an entry-level controller. As always, like if you like, dislike if you dislike, chuck us a comment in the comment section, and be sure to subscribe and make sure to get in the mix.